This is Dead Serious, a show about short horror stories worthy of discussion. I'm Dead Palette, a true American male. Today we're going to be taking a look at a story from toospooky.com. That's T-O-O spooky.com. The story is entitled Useless Trash, and it is written by Oxygen Thief. We will see if this oxygen thief can take my breath away. This person has just a little subtext to their name on the forum, and it says, "Everyone is an artist. I agree." And that is very much so the perspective of realist horror, where you write these really mundane, stories that are true to life, and then something just goes horribly wrong. And I think we all have a story like that. Horror that is of real life. Horror from real life. So let's see if this person is doing that with their story, Useless Trash. The inconveniences of daily life don't really come my way, mostly because I don't have many friends. A lot of my close family is dead too. That's fine though, I don't mind keeping to myself. People ask too many questions, if I'm being honest. Alright, so the person writing the story, the narrator of this is a antisocial person, keeps to themselves, but is kind of betraying the fact that they do have some lonelinesses about them. These thoughts going through their head. Their family is dead, and then people ask too many questions. So that's a little ominous thing to say at the beginning of a story, but it could be nothing. Just could be this antisocial mindset. But let's see where this goes. I'm still professional. I'm friendly at work and go on a few dates every now and then. People are good for breaking monotony. If you work hard enough to keep few people close and many others away, you receive a blessing of fewer problems. It's worked for me so far. That's very true. The more friends you have, the more issues you have, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's sometimes a good thing to take on that responsibility of other people's problems, the problems that come with other people, I should say. If you have more friends, you're more likely to have somebody say, "Hey, can you help me move? Can you, dog sit?" Something like that. The more likely that you have to deal with their bullshit. But that also means that you're more likely to have people whom you can depend on. And this person just wants to bypass that and be responsible for themselves. And I definitely get that mentality. So already we have two paragraphs, and they're very small paragraphs, that are telling us a lot about the mentality of our narrator. And I think that that's interesting. About a week ago, I was leaving for work only to find a trash can on my doormat. It was 6:30 in the morning. The sun had barely come out, and no one was around. The trash can was cylindrical with a plastic bag wrapped around the rim. It was something you put in your office, beige and unnoticeable. I could tell something was inside it, but I didn't care at that moment. Alright, very vivid image. I get a great idea of what it is I'm supposed to be picturing. A trash can, beige, cylindrical, belongs in an office. They're grounding this in very plain speech, very mundane speech, but it is effectively communicating a vivid image, and that's important. And it's also an out of place, interesting image that you just, walk out one day and then there's this unexpected trash can, and an indoor trash can at that, put right outside your door. And so there seems to be something in it, but we don't know what it is. Let's see where this goes. My mind immediately went to kids pulling pranks, which isn't something to get upset about in the slightest. I set the can aside, and it was still there when I got home that afternoon. I expected it to be. Okay, I got that. So the idea of, my mind said it was these kids pulling pranks, which isn't something to get upset about. I think that should be, which isn't something I got upset about or normally get upset about, or something along those lines, because you're making a declarative statement to other people, and this is a very personal story. This narrator really hasn't gone outside of themselves yet in this story, and I don't think that they should. This is us. This is them telling us what their perspective is. So that slight changing of a phrase from "which isn't something to get upset about in the slightest" to "which isn't something I'd get upset about in the slightest," would make a whole lot of difference, I think. Sitting on my porch, swing with the trash can between my feet. See, this person has a porch, and the picture in my mind, without even saying that they had a porch, I was picturing a porch with a swing, and I don't know why that is necessarily. I mean, where I live doesn't have a porch with a swing or something like that, but I that's the sense that I got in my mind. Let me know what kind of picture you have so far in your head, or at any point in the story, in the comments below. With a trash can between my feet, I peered inside to see a stuffed animal cuddled in the plastic bag. Curious, almost amused, I pulled out the light brown grizzly bear. It took a moment to jog my memory, but the toy was mine nearly 35 years ago. I knew it wasn't a new one because the tag stitched to its leg read, "To Mary from Mom." So this story is bringing in an interesting idea of something from your past, something nostalgic, and it's nostalgic to our author, to our narrator rather than to being something very generalized like, hey, do you remember Pokemon or Care Bears or something like that? This teddy bear is something relevant to them, and it's a very serial killer-esque thing to put a trash can with something from your past onto it's something that you would see out of a slasher thriller movie or something like that. The teddy bear was a gift for my 5th birthday, and her name was Coco. I threw her away in my late teens, although I don't fully remember. My mother died a couple years back, leaving no one else but me to know about Coco. Not only that, all the tears on Coco's stomach and head were gone, with no stitches I could find. Alright, so this person has seemingly no way of, there's seemingly no way that anyone else could know about Coco. Oh my god, why was that hard to convey? Sitting there in the afternoon heat, I looked around my neighborhood, thinking I could catch someone recording my reaction or something. All I saw were people walking their dogs and kids playing in the street. Everything looked as warm and welcoming as it always had in the community. Simply normal. Alright, I think that's a very common mindset nowadays when it comes to thinking about whether you're on a hidden camera show. We're always being filmed. There's so much film out there. You walk out, you're on something like 80 cameras a day, I think is the average in America. I pulled that number out of my ass, but I think I heard that somewhere. You're often recorded, and because of the advent of hidden camera TV shows and stuff like that, that is it's a paranoid thought that I think a lot of people get. I've certainly had that thought of like, am I being fucked with at this moment? Is there something going on? This can't be real. And it's been for much more mundane things. So, I like that they're bringing up that mindset. I called the cops just so that whoever left Coco at my doorstep knew I wasn't afraid of doing so. I even apologized to the officers for wasting their time, but they still assured me I wasn't wrong for being anxious after I explained the situation. That's very true. Very practical thing to do. I like our narrator that they have this practical mindset of, you should call the cops in that scenario because you don't know what it could be. It could be nothing. It could be something. It's like going to the doctor, oh, is that lump, just a weird cyst, or is it cancer? What is it? It's better to go to the doctor and find out that it's a cyst and not cancer than to let it kill you. So here we have a paragraph break, and it says, a line break, and it says, I wasn't anxious at all. And then the next paragraph, the police took the trash can as well as Coco, but I almost didn't want them to. There weren't a lot of things from my childhood I still owned. It was probably for the best, though. Yeah, I like that. I like the detail of, they didn't want to let go of their teddy bear. Now they're having these memories about their mother, and their childhood is gone, and this is the last remnants of it, apparently. So that's a believable motivation. But still, you need to hand over that evidence. The weeks went by with nothing strange happening. The incident was nearly gone from my mind before I discovered another trash can. Same time, same position, same bag, same can. I stared at it for a minute. Not all the contents, just at the whole thing. For some reason, I didn't picture a person putting it there. So this weird intuition that our narrator has that it wasn't a person that placed this trash can there. Don't know what to make of that, but I do like the phrasing of same time, same position, same bag, same can. That's very tight, very tightly written. It's you know, a little wordy in the fact that you're using same so many times, but that repetition is something that people use in real life, and I like that. I grabbed the trash can and went back into the house, slamming the door behind me. My racing heart told me to look, not my brain, which was telling me to call the cops again immediately. It wasn't going to be anything bad, just more useless trash, because something was fucking with me. That it was. Useless trash being mentioned in the story. Alright, there's our title. Placing it on the coffee table, I looked inside to see something glint back at me. I slowly reached in and pulled out a knife I had forgotten about a long time ago. Crimson dripped heavy from the blade's tip, as if it cut skin just moments prior, as if that blood didn't have 15 years to coagulate into dust. Okay, so this person recognizes this knife and why it would have blood on it, because they're saying 15 years time to coagulate. So that means presumably that they know where this blood is coming from, where this knife is coming from. Perhaps they committed a murder with this knife or witnessed it. I will say, not a fan of the term crimson, like ever. I just hate it. It's so played out that I don't think you should really be using the term crimson. Even in verbose Lovecraftian horror, I don't want to hear the word crimson because it's just so played out. It's like the word eldritch. Crimson, I know I'm going on a rant about this, but just say blood. Blood, you know, we recognize what blood is. But everything else about this, really tight. You know, the phrase dripped heavy from the blade's tip, as if it cut skin just moments prior. That is an unsettling idea, that you have, something that is impossible. It's sort of a magic trick thing, right? You're pulling out a knife that you recognize from the past, cutting someone, and here it is, fresh blood. I recognized the chipped blue paint on the handle and the American flag I painted on it in high school. That was the last feature I remember seeing before throwing the knife into a river. So we have, like I thought, it's the, I know what you did last summer kind of scenario. And so they tried to dispose of this evidence. Calling the police was not an option, at least for me. I thought about the trash cans I could find later, which had the arms and the legs and the other tools I used. As much as I hated them, they would have to stay keepsakes if I wanted to show them, if they wanted to show up in my life again. Okay, so I like that the story ends there very abruptly with the fact that they have murdered people. And it seems as though our narrator has stopped murdering people, as this wasn't a continuous thing. It seems from the way that they talk about this in a detached way and use the phrase keepsakes, which kind of implies that this was something done out of joy. It doesn't seem as though our narrator is a sympathetic killer. It doesn't seem like they were doing it in defense or something like that. It seems as though they were doing it maliciously, that they got some sort of joy from it. I would say that the beginning of this story is telegraphing a little too hard. That's a hard line to walk. How much you want to foreshadow, how much you don't. If you want to foreshadow at all, a lot of the times you're going to end up going a little bit too far. And I think this does. Too many, people ask too many questions, if I'm being honest. Pull that back a little bit. The fact that you're antisocial should really be enough. A little more showing and a little less telling at the beginning. The mechanic of the trash bags showing up these items, that's cool. But the question is, why is it happening? Is it guilt? Is it someone out for revenge? Whatever the case may be, I think that this gives us a handful of possible solutions, but doesn't bog us down with endless possibilities. And anytime that there is room to interpret without it being a, concrete answer, where your mind is left to wander but not fall out, you can have an open mind, but not so open that your brain falls out. That is what I like. And I think that this story is doing that quite well. I'd like a little more detail, just to pare it in just a little bit, cull one or two possible interpretations, but I think that it's working pretty effectively to give you a handful of possible reasons for this to be happening. And it seems as though our narrator isn't worried about getting caught, so possibly guilt isn't on the table there. Now, if you enjoyed that, consider helping out the community and supporting my channel. You can support the community by conversing in the comments below or on the Discord linked in the description. You can also support me by subscribing to the channel, following me on the social media, links down below, and pledging to my Patreon, which is also down below. Thank you so much for your time, and now on to our sponsor of this non-moment in time, which is Pandora's Blocks. Pandora's Blocks, the Minecraft expansion that causes you to lose everything but hope for the future of our children.